Scientists discovered a method so powerful it's been used in federal prisons, children's hospitals, Fortune 500 boardrooms, and Olympic training facilities to permanently change how human beings behave. And the wildest part? Most people have never heard of it by name. But you've felt it. Every single day of your life. Because once I show you how this works, you are never going to look at your own habits the same way again. Here's what we're going to prove in this video. Slot machines and good parenting use the exact same psychological trick. Ignoring a child's tantrum is actually a science-backed strategy, and most parents get it completely backwards. And the reason your last diet, gym streak, or habit failed? It had nothing to do with willpower. It's all explained by one field of psychology called behavior modification, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use it. Before I explain what behavior modification is, I want to tell you about a rat. In the 1930s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner built a box. He put a rat inside. The rat could press a lever, and when it did, it got a small pellet of food. Simple enough, right? But then Skinner changed one thing. He made the lever random. Sometimes pressing it gave food. Sometimes nothing. And here's what happened: the rat became obsessed. It pressed the lever over and over and over again. Far more than when the reward was guaranteed. Sound familiar? Think about the last time you checked your phone hoping for a notification. Or refreshed your email just one more time. Or kept scrolling not because there was anything good, but just in case. You're the rat. The lever is your phone. And Skinner figured this out almost 100 years ago. That's behavior modification. And once you see how it works, you'll realize it's been running your life this whole time. So let's go deeper, because you already met Skinner. Now let's understand what he actually discovered. At its core, behavior modification is a psychological approach that uses specific, deliberate strategies to increase behaviors you want and decrease behaviors you don't. But everything starts with one idea. The foundational one. Behavior is learned. Really sit with that for a second. Every habit you have right now, the way you respond to stress, the way you eat, the way you talk to yourself, was built through repeated experiences, rewards, and consequences. Over time. Often without you even realizing it. And if it was built, it can be rebuilt. That's not a motivational poster. That's the conclusion of over a century of psychological research. It started with Ivan Pavlov, who discovered in the late 1800s that you could train an animal to respond to a cue that had nothing to do with the original reward. He rang a bell every time he fed his dogs. Eventually, the bell alone made them salivate. No food needed. That's classical conditioning, your brain linking a trigger to a response. Then Skinner went further. He said behavior isn't just about triggers, it's about consequences. Do something, get a reward, you'll do it again. Do something, get a punishment, you'll think twice. He called this operant conditioning. That's the engine behind everything we're about to cover. In plain English, behavior modification equals using rewards and consequences deliberately to shape how people act. Used in schools, in therapy, in sports coaching, in parenting, in addiction recovery, and in building your own habits, starting today. Types and categories. Alright, now let's walk through the 7 core techniques. Each one works a little differently. And each one is going to hit differently once you see how it shows up in your actual life. Type 1, positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement means adding something good after a behavior to make that behavior happen more often. You already know this one. Gold stars, paychecks, compliments. That dopamine hit when someone likes your post. But here's the angle most people miss: you can run this on yourself. Finished a hard task? Don't just move to the next one. Give yourself something: a break, a snack you love, 5 minutes of something you enjoy. Your brain doesn't care if the reward comes from someone else or from you. It just registers, that behavior felt good. Do it again. Bottom line, positive reinforcement makes behavior repeat by adding something desirable. Type 2, negative reinforcement. This one confuses almost everyone because negative sounds like punishment. It's not. Negative reinforcement means removing something unpleasant to encourage a behavior. Classic example: your car beeps until you buckle your seatbelt. You buckle it. Beeping stops. Relief. And that relief reinforces the behavior. Here's a more psychological one: you feel anxious before a big presentation. So you over-prepare. The anxiety fades. And now your brain has learned, over-preparing removes anxiety. So next time you feel anxious about anything, you over-prepare again. The unpleasant thing was removed. That removal became the reward. And a habit was born without you ever choosing it. Bottom line, negative reinforcement removes discomfort to strengthen a behavior. Type 3, positive punishment. Positive punishment means adding something unpleasant after a behavior to reduce it. Here's the example nobody puts in a textbook but everybody has lived through. You make a joke. It lands badly. Complete silence. Maybe one awkward laugh. That silence is the punishment. And I guarantee you never made that exact joke in that exact room again. No rulebook. No formal consequence. Just a feeling, and your behavior changed permanently. The hot stove works the same way. The speeding ticket too. But the social one hits different because we've all felt it in our bodies, not just our heads. One important note: research is clear that punishment is the least effective long-term strategy on its own. It tells the brain stop that, but it never teaches do this instead. It works best when paired with reinforcement for the behavior you actually want. Bottom line, positive punishment adds consequences to reduce unwanted behavior but needs reinforcement to create lasting change. Type 4, negative punishment. Negative punishment means taking away something valued after a behavior to decrease it. Standard version: teenager misses curfew, loses phone for a week. But here's one that lands differently. You're late to a meeting repeatedly. Your manager stops asking for your input. No formal reprimand. Just quietly, gradually, your voice gets less airtime in the room. What was removed? Respect. Opportunity. Inclusion. You didn't get a warning. You just noticed something was gone. And your behavior around punctuality changed. Okay, stop for a second. We're halfway through and I want you to notice something. Every single technique we just covered? You've experienced all 4 of them. Probably today. Maybe in the last hour. Someone praised you or ignored you. Something unpleasant stopped when you did the right thing. You lost something or gained something based on how you acted. Your behavior has been getting shaped constantly by your environment, your relationships, your routines, mostly without your awareness. That's not a criticism. That's just how humans work. But now you're aware. And awareness is where the real power begins. Let's keep going because the next 3 types are where it gets genuinely surprising. Type 5, Extinction. This one is called extinction, and it might be the most counterintuitive, most practically useful concept in this entire video. Extinction is when you stop reinforcing a behavior and over time, that behavior fades and disappears. Classic example, a toddler throws a tantrum in a store to get candy. The parent gives in once. That tantrum just got reinforced. The child learned something permanent in that moment: screaming works. So the parent decides to stop giving in. They ignore the tantrum completely. And at first? Brace yourself, the behavior gets worse. The screaming gets louder. More dramatic. Longer. This is called the extinction burst, and it's exactly why most people give up too early. They ignore the tantrum 3 times, it escalates, they cave, and they've now accidentally taught the child that escalating is what works. They made the behavior stronger by quitting too soon. But if you hold the line consistently, every single time the behavior loses its reason to exist. And it disappears. Now here's where it gets wild. Remember the rat? When the lever gave food every single time and then Skinner stopped, the rat gave up pressing it fairly quickly. But the rats who got food randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, those rats pressed the lever thousands of times before stopping. Inconsistent rewards are more addictive than guaranteed ones. Let that land. That's why slot machines pay out randomly, not every pull. The unpredictability is the entire hook. Guaranteed rewards are actually easier to walk away from. That's why toxic relationships are so hard to leave. The person is sometimes warm, sometimes cold. Sometimes kind, sometimes cruel. Your brain can't quit because it's still waiting for the reward that might come next time. That's why social media is designed exactly the way it is. You don't know if the next scroll will have something worth seeing. So you keep scrolling. Just in case. Intermittent reinforcement is one of the most powerful behavioral mechanisms ever discovered. And now that you know it exists, you will see it everywhere. Type 6, Shaping. Shaping means reinforcing gradual steps toward a goal, not demanding the final behavior all at once. Here's what this looks like in real life. You want to become someone who works out every day. If you start by committing to a full hour every morning, you'll last about 3 days before the guilt spiral starts. And the guilt spiral is worse than not starting. It convinces you that you're the problem when the method was the problem. But what if instead you start by just putting on your workout clothes? That gets rewarded. Then you drive to the gym. Rewarded. 10 minutes of actual movement. Rewarded. 20. 45. An hour. Each small step reinforced. Each win building on the last. Until one day you're the person who works out, because you became that person one step at a time. This is how animal trainers teach complex behaviors. How therapists help people overcome phobias. And it's the only sustainable way to build habits that actually stick. The reason most people fail at change isn't weakness. It's that they skip straight to the final behavior before their brain has been shaped to support it. Type 7, Token Economy. A structured system where people earn tokens for positive behavior and exchange them for rewards later. You've seen it in classrooms with sticker charts. In addiction recovery with sobriety coins. In every loyalty program at every airline and coffee shop on Earth. Here's why it works: it makes progress visible. Humans are deeply motivated by seeing their own momentum accumulate in front of them. Build your own version. A habit tracker app. A jar you drop a marble into every time you complete the behavior. A streak counter. The specific form doesn't matter. What matters is that your brain can see the progress happening in real time because that visibility becomes its own reward. Here's what I want to leave you with. Everything you just learned, the reinforcement, the extinction, the shaping, this isn't abstract theory. It's a description of how you work. How you've always worked. Your habits weren't random. They were built through thousands of small experiences, rewards, and consequences that taught your brain what to repeat. Most of those lessons happened without you ever choosing them. I've used these techniques on myself. They're not magic. Some days they feel slow. Some days the extinction burst hits and it genuinely feels like you're moving backwards. But they're real. And they work. What's changed today is that you now understand the mechanism. And when you understand how a thing works, you can work it differently. You're not at the mercy of your patterns anymore. You can choose the rewards you give yourself. You can recognize the intermittent hooks pulling you toward habits you don't want and decide not to play that game. You can shape the behavior you actually want, one small step at a time. If something in this video stopped you, if you caught yourself thinking, "That's exactly what I've been doing," or "I never thought about it that way," hit the like button. It genuinely helps this reach more people who need to hear it. And subscribe, because next week we're going somewhere you won't want to miss. Why willpower is actually a myth and what the science says actually works when you're trying to change. We teased it today. Next week we go all the way in. And if you know someone who's stuck in a habit loop, someone who keeps trying and feels like they're failing, share this with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can give someone is the language to understand what's happening inside them. I'll see you next one.